When you think of pirates, you imagine a black flag fluttering against a crimson sunset, a skull, two crossed bones, and a promise of death. But that image, burned into our minds by centuries of myth, was only the beginning of something far more sinister. Because those flags weren't just decoration. They were psychological warfare. Every pirate knew that a fight costs lives, powder, and time, all things they couldn't afford. So instead of firing first, they flew fear. A flag was their first cannon shot. A warning, a story, a curse. The moment a merchant ship spotted the black cloth rising on the horizon, panic rippled across the deck. Crews prayed, captains turned pale. Some even surrendered before a single shot was fired, because they knew what those symbols meant, not just death, but something worse, judgment. But here's the secret most don't know, not all pirate flags were the same. Each captain had their own, and every one of them told a story soaked in blood and belief. Take Edward Teach, Blackbeard. His flag showed a horned skeleton raising a glass to the devil, stabbing a bleeding heart with a spear. It wasn't random. It was a message. The skeleton was death himself. The spear was Blackbeard's wrath. The bleeding heart? A warning that mercy would not be found on his ship. Then there was Calico Jack Rackham, whose flag showed a skull above crossed swords. Simple, but effective. A declaration of battle, not torture. Rackham was reckless, but he preferred his victims to fight. His flag was his way of saying, die like men or kneel like cowards. Bartholomew Roberts, the most successful pirate of all time, carried two different flags. In one, he stood with a flaming sword beside a skeleton, a reminder that even in death, he had company. In another, he was toasting with death itself, both smiling. That image was chilling because it told sailors one thing: this man wasn't afraid to die. And that made him unstoppable. Some flags went further, diving deep into the world of superstition. A red flag, for instance, meant no quarter, no mercy, no survivors. Crews called it the Bloody Banner. When that flag went up, even seasoned sailors froze, because it meant the pirates weren't bargaining, they were cleansing. Others used hourglasses and skeletons to signal that time was running out, that the crew had one last chance to surrender before the killing began. But beyond the symbols, something darker was happening, something almost spiritual. To the pirates, these flags were alive. They believed that once hoisted, the flag took on the soul of the ship. It was fed by blood, fear, and victory. The longer it survived, the stronger its curse became. Some even said that a pirate's spirit entered his flag when he died, cursing it forever to fly in the storms that followed his ghost. There are legends of flags that continued to appear years after their captains were hanged. Sailors whispered of seeing the black banner of Blackbeard on the horizon, when no ship was there. Others claimed the bloody red of Labuse was seen off Madagascar, fluttering from an invisible mast. The sea keeps its secrets, but the stories persisted. Every time a pirate raised his flag, he wasn't just declaring war on another ship, he was challenging God himself. A black flag meant rebellion against the world. A red flag meant rebellion against life. To the empires of the age, Spain, England, France, these symbols were nightmares. They were outlawed, burned, erased from history. But the truth survived in whispers, etched into the journals of captured men who swore that when those banners rose, the air itself changed. The waves grew silent, the wind died, and the only sound left was the creak of ropes and the whisper of death coming closer. The Jolly Roger, the name we all know, came from the French term Jolie Rouge, meaning pretty red. A cruel joke for something so grim. Over time, it became a universal symbol of piracy. But even then, no two were alike. Some pirates painted their flags with their own blood. Others stitched them using the cloth of their fallen enemies. To them, it wasn't just a flag. It was a piece of their soul, fluttering against the heavens they no longer believed in. And when the British Navy finally began to hunt them down, when the gallows and iron cages replaced the sea, many pirates burned their own flags before capture. Not out of fear, but because they believed that if the enemy ever seized their flag, they would also seize their spirit. And so, the ashes of those flags scattered across the waves, joining the bones, the wrecks, and the ghosts that still whisper beneath the foam. But the story doesn't end there. Even today, some historians claim to have found preserved pirate flags hidden in private collections. Dark silk with faded symbols, their origins uncertain. Yet when touched, they say, the cloth feels cold, not like old fabric, like something that never forgot what it was made for. Some museum curators refuse to display them, claiming strange things happen when the flags are exposed to open air, whispers, shifting shadows, even the smell of salt and gunpowder. Superstition? Maybe. But remember this? These men lived and died by symbols. And symbols are powerful things, especially the ones painted in blood. The legacy of those cursed flags didn't end when the last pirate was hanged. It only sank deeper, drifting beneath centuries of salt and silence. Their meaning, their power, and their defiance still whisper across time. Because the Jolly Roger was never just a banner, it was a mirror. It showed humanity what it truly feared, the unchained soul. To the pirates, freedom was worth damnation. The flag was their confession, a declaration that they'd burned every bridge to the world of kings and laws. Once it rose, there was no home to return to, no forgiveness waiting. The black cloth was a shroud for men who had already buried their names. And yet, that was its magic. It transformed ordinary sailors, deserters, slaves, fugitives, into something eternal. The flag made them brothers of the storm, united not by birth or blood, but by a single oath: death before tyranny. That oath terrified empires. Armadas trembled, not because pirates were invincible, but because they were free. And men who have nothing left to lose are impossible to control. Each time that skull and crossbones appeared on the horizon, it mocked every king's banner, every law of the sea. But the deeper curse of the pirate flag was not on their enemies. It was on us. Because even now, hundreds of years later, we still feel its pull. We romanticize their rebellion, their chaos, their refusal to kneel. It reminds us of a truth most have forgotten, that freedom always demands a price, and peace often begins with defiance. The pirate flag became a ghost that history couldn't bury. It waves in our art, our stories, our bones. It's tattooed on skin, painted on walls, stitched into clothes, not as a call to violence, but as a whisper of rebellion that never quite dies. So when you see that black flag, remember, it wasn't made to glorify death. It was made to remind the living that fear is a weapon, freedom is sacred, and legends are born from those who refuse to bow. The sea has claimed their bodies, but their symbols still haunt the wind. Because you can sink a ship, you can silence a cannon, but you can never kill a flag that was born from defiance.